Hey bookworms, welcome back to my channel and to another review. Today I'll be talking about Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King, which is by no means a new book, but recently given the renaissance of Stephen King's movie adaptations, just reminded me that I have a bunch of ebooks by him that I have to read, and I decided to go for Dolores Claiborne. Now, in previous videos I mentioned that I have this love-hate relationship with Stephen King. Either I really hate his books or I really love them. And if you want to know to which category Dolores Claiborne belongs to, just continue watching. But before that, a short synopsis. Dolores Claiborne takes place in a small New England town, not Derry, Maine, which is the first good point toward this book. Anyway, we have a woman called Dolores Claiborne, and she is in a police station because she is suspected of murder. So in this book, Dolores tells her story, her versions of events, or more likely what happened to her in the past few years, so we get a look at her life in order to understand how she got to this situation and her explaining actually why she's innocent and did not kill anybody. Now, the first very unique thing in this book is the storytelling. This is told through first-person narrative, obviously from Dolores' point of view, but it's not a regular one. It's as if someone recorded everything she said to the policeman, removed all other voices, and created a transcript out of this. So, in fact, what we get here is the things that Dolores tells the policeman in the police station, and she just talks and goes back to past events as kind of flashbacks, and every now and then she will stop and answer a question, and that's how we realize that somebody asked her something, which I think was very unique. It took me a while to understand what's going on and to get used to it, and I can see how this might annoy some people, but after a while, after I got used to this, I just regarded this as a usual first-person narrative, and I think what it gives is a sense of authenticity, and if Stephen King can do something is write in a way that will make us feel as if we really hear the characters' voices as they speak. For example, if she pronounces a word differently, the word will be written the way she pronounces it, and I really liked it. I also really like Dolores as a character. Like I said, we get a look at her life, and she's been through some things. She's a crude woman, and I don't know, I just really liked her as a character. And if you know Stephen King's books, you know that he doesn't use swear words sparingly. But what I really liked about this book is that you don't get so many curse words or overly descriptive sex like he usually does. And even though I don't really mind those things in books, I feel like I've said it over and over again in past videos, I don't mind swearing in books, I don't mind sex in books, but I always had a feeling that Stephen King overly does it. Except in this book, which I really find a positive thing. Speaking of Stephen King's tropes, it's important to know that this is not a horror book. It's not really scary. You don't have any ghosts or monsters or serial killers there. When you think about it, you don't really have a whole bunch of things going on there. It's just one woman tells her story, her life story. But surprisingly enough, it's fascinating. It's a page-turner, which is due to the way Stephen King writes. But I do want to talk about the scare factor. Like I said, this is not a horror book. This is not a scary book at all. However, there is one part in this book that is not only terrifying, but just for this scene, I will say this book is worth reading. I said terrifying, and I'm adding to this nerve-wracking, gut-wrenching, because these are the feelings that you feel while reading this scene. Now here's the thing, you've seen these things in movies. In movies it's usually short. You have a minute or two of suspenseful, thrilling scene, and then it's over and you can relax. But here, it takes forever. It's so realistic. The plan doesn't really go the way she hopes, and now she's in this moment of, what the hell am I supposed to do now? In the movies it will be easy, but then in movies you don't really see the aftermath. And it just goes on and on and on like torture. I didn't count how many pages it goes on, but it felt like forever. and I've never felt the terror and the horror that the character feels the way I felt it in this book. I actually wanted to cover my eyes and wait for it to be over, but it's not very practical to read a book with closed eyes. Anyway, this scene is so effective, so horrifying, without involving any sort of monsters or ghosts or, I don't know, witches or serial killers. It was just so scary. Now, a quick note, this is kind of funny, not in a funny way, but I've read this book and this scene in particular a few days after dreaming about me being in the same position like Dolores, and that just make everything even worse. Or better, depends how you look at it. So overall, I think this is one of Stephen King's better works. It's a fascinating page-turner told through a very unique perspective. I think it's safe to say that if you don't absolutely hate Stephen King books, give this one a chance. If you are okay with them but slightly annoyed from his famous King's tropes, this one has less of them. For me, this was strangely addictive, even though there are parts of it that I didn't like. But if you're looking to read a Stephen King book that doesn't involve devils, clowns, or evil hotels, give this one a chance. And that's it for my review. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to click like to show it and to subscribe to my channel if you dare. And before you go, I have a two-part question for you. The first part is, how do you feel about Stephen King? Do you absolutely love him? Absolutely hate him? Are you somewhere in the middle? And the second part is, what work of Stephen King, whether it's a short story, novel, whatever, what work would you recommend to a Stephen King beginner? I think I would recommend either Green Mile, since it's one of my favorites, or Needful Things for someone who's more into very lengthy horror. So again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.